The lecture hall of Arcos Academy shimmered with holographic projections, maps, timelines, and casualty charts drifting like translucent ghosts above the rows of alien students. Professor Verka, whose four mandibles clicked when excited, stood proudly at the center podium. Today's lesson concerned one of the most famous military events in all Alliance records, the Siege of Ravalax 9. Ravalax 9 had been a strategic fortress world targeted by the Vrax Dominion 2 centuries earlier. It was a story of impossible odds, heroic resistance, and a final stand that had echoed across dozens of worlds. Every species in the Alliance knew the tale. Every cadet studied it. Every historian revered it. And sitting quietly in the back of the lecture hall, leaning on his mop like it was part of his physiology, was Elias Rowan, the Academy's night shift human janitor. No one paid him attention. Humans were rare out here, and those that did travel often found only simple work. Most aliens assumed humans were soft, primitive, a pre-FTL species that lucked into the Alliance through a fluke diplomatic encounter. Humans weren't warriors. They weren't engineers. They weren't strategists. They certainly weren't part of military history except as footnotes. But today, that would change. Professor Verka activated the primary holoscreen. The image of the Gate of Ravalax, a massive armored choke point glowing red from bombardment, materialized above the class. This, the professor announced, is where the turning point occurred. The Dominion's last push focused on breaching the central gate. Alliance archives confirm only 5 defenders remained alive in the gatehouse at the final hour. A student raised a bioluminescent limb. "Professor, how long did they hold?" 42 minutes, Verka replied, reverent. "An eternity against Dominion shock troopers." A murmur rippled through the room. Another student asked, "Professor, do we know their identities? The records only list unit numbers." Professor Verka sighed. "Yes. Most of them died before giving post-battle accounts. The sole survivor never issued a formal statement. Their file is incomplete." A third student tilted her crystalline head. "How odd. I had assumed every species involved took pride in the defense." "No," Verka shook his head. "The last defender never requested recognition. Their file remained classified until recently, and even now, the details are scarce." Elias shifted his weight, trying not to look bored. The story was accurate enough, though the professor got a few facts wrong. Not that it mattered. But then the holoscreen zoomed in on a still image. Grainy, footage damaged from plasma fire. A lone figure stood against a melting pressure door, armor patchwork and smoke-eaten, holding a weapon that looked little better than a welded pipe repurposed into a rifle. His silhouette was unmistakably human. The professor spoke. "Some theorize this defender may have been a human auxiliary, though the Alliance had few on record at the time. Still, there is debate." Elias let out a small, involuntary sigh. Not exasperated, just tired. Dozens of alien heads turned. The professor blinked. "Janitor Rowan, is there something you wish to comment on?" Elias hesitated. He never intended to speak in this class, or any class, but he had mopped around these students for months, listened to them argue tactics and heroics as though they were puzzles in a game, and, hell, maybe it was time, so Elias cleared his throat. "I held the gate," he said. At first, no one reacted. The words drifted across the hall like dust motes in slow gravity, too absurd to register. Then every student froze. Professor Verka stared. Excuse me?" Elias leaned a little more comfortably on his mop. "Ravalax 9, Central Gatehouse. I was one of the 5 defenders. I'm the one in that blurry clip." Dead silence. A few students exchanged confused glances. Some snickered nervously. One whispered, "Humans don't fight." Professor Verka approached cautiously. "Janitor Rowan, Ravalax 9 was nearly 2 centuries ago. You are 63 years old," Elias finished. Cryostasis, long deployments, standard stuff for low-ranking volunteers back then. But your file, lost, Elias said. Paperwork got shredded when the Dominion nuked half our database. I didn't bother correcting it. The professor's mandibles twitched in disbelief. But why? You could have become a decorated veteran, a strategist. Elias shrugged. Wanted a quiet life. Didn't see a point in bragging about surviving because my squadmates didn't. The room's holograms flickered as the professor struggled to form coherent words. Finally, he whispered, "For the sake of scholarship." What happened in that gatehouse? Elias looked down at the mop handle. Then he began. He described the Dominion's final charge, the way they howled through vocoders, mad with bloodlust. He explained how the gatehouse walls buckled from orbital bombardment, how 4 of the defenders fell in the first wave, leaving him alone with only an overheated rifle and a half-collapsed barricade. He told them how fear felt like a second skeleton inside him, rattling and shaking but not breaking. He recalled rerouting coolant lines by hand, burning his palms so badly the scars never faded. He remembered the Dominion breaching charges melting through alloy doors that were supposed to withstand tank shells. He spoke of smoke so thick he couldn't see his own boots. He revealed how he wedged the emergency containment panel shut using his damaged rifle as a brace, buying the Alliance Marines precious minutes to regroup. 42 minutes. 42 minutes of screaming metal, of heat so intense it cooked the edges of his armor. 42 minutes of firing blind into a storm of shadows and plasma. He didn't romanticize it. He didn't dramatize it. He just talked, as if remembering something that happened last week instead of a lifetime ago. When he finished, the room felt smaller, quieter. The students' frills dimmed, their lenses flickered, their antennae drooped. Some looked shaken. One wiped their eye membranically. Professor Verka swallowed hard. Why did you stay behind, even after the others fell?" Elias shrugged again, though this time it was heavier. "Because someone had to," he said, "and because humans don't run when our friends are behind us." The professor straightened with reverence humans rarely received. "Janitor Rowan, Elias, your testimony rewrites part of our military history. The Academy would honor you. The Alliance would honor you." Elias raised a hand. "No need. I'm good where I am." "But why return to work as—" The professor gestured awkwardly at the mop. "This?" A faint smile tugged Elias's lips. "Because these halls stay cleaner than that gate ever did." No one laughed. They understood it wasn't a joke. Professor Verka bowed, a gesture rare among his species. One by one, the students followed. A janitor, a man unnoticed, a human dismissed as harmless. Yet when legends were studied across the galaxy, when the greatest siege in history was analyzed by scholars and tacticians, the silent figure in the back finally spoke. And the truth was simple. He held the gate, and humanity, fragile, underestimated humanity, had stood between oblivion and survival, and had not broken.